This is the Violent Professional Podcast.
Hey, you guys ever go into your closet, after a night of fun activities, wake up, throw a shirt on, because you need a shirt. You can't go out and have your nipples all hanging out in public, and then realize as you're about to exit your humble abode, this may have been a cum rag from the previous night. It's a little bit harder to tell when you're wearing a set of overalls. That's what I always say. Now, that story is about somebody else, not me. I just wanted to know. Have you guys ever done that? It can't be just my friend, How you guys doing? Welcome to another episode of the Violent Professional Podcast. I'm ready to fucking go. I'm ready for another fucking episode. What's on my goddamn finger? Jeez. It's been a while, kids. Last episode was my buddy Mark and I. We were talking about just whatever the fuck we were talking about. We're talking about the future. We're talking about the present. We're talking the past. We're fucking time travelers, my friends. But here we are yet again. I know the baby birds out there, you've been begging for it, mouth agape. You've been asked for another episode. Just like feed me, daddy. And here we are. I'm ready to feed you. Let me shut this fucking monitor off. It's distracting me. I'm ready to give it to you. This is a good episode. I'm going to try a few things. Talk about some new things. I'm going to try to stop touching the fucking microphone this time. It's all practice. We're all learning how to do this together, right? So here we go. You notice that if you're watching the video, hopefully you are, you go on YouTube, you subscribe. You go on Patreon, you subscribe. There's a few things I'm trying. One thing I'm going to try to do is not do what I just did and grab the mic. Another thing I'm going to try to do is not say the F-bomb. I probably said it like a couple times or more since we started this. Just because I feel it's right. There's a progression we need to take in doing these episodes, and that's one of them. You may have noticed that the mullet's gone, but the overalls have appeared. That's fucking odd. It feels like those go together, the mullet and the overalls. They should be going together, but alas, they're not. But if you saw me a few weeks ago, you would have noticed that I had the overalls and the mullet, and it was popping. It was popping on a handstand. I want to talk about a few things that have been going on since the last episode I did by myself. I was up in Washington on vacation for a little bit, seeing some people. Back to my previous house that I actually own, and I was taking care of that, fixing some things inside of it, and on the outside of it there was like a fence that blew over. So I was taking care of that, fixing that place up. And then I drove back across the United States yet again. That sure was fun. Did it twice in short succession. It was not a good time, especially the second time. So the first time we went across, I had my son. We were driving across. We camped in Moab. We had a blasty blast. We went across the United States. He saw this place, Purple Mountain's majesty. He saw all that stuff. He had a good time. It melted my little heart when he told me, he was like, this is a great trip. I felt good about that, and I'd like to report to you that he said that to me. You don't win that much as a dad, I think, sometimes, but I won that time, and it felt great. Although there was a few times that I got pretty pissed off at, like, drivers and stuff, and then I felt like I lost. So overall, we'll call it a fucking, let's call it even, all right? Had a good trip. Went across, and then I drove back. On the last episode of the podcast, you can't really tell. You can't see the particulate floating around in the atmosphere. But I was catching COVID from my buddy Mark. Son of a bitch had that disease, and he gave it to me, and it fucking blew dicks. I think I would have been okay with it, but I had to drive. I was driving, and I found out that I had it, and it sucked. There was a period of time when I had to just keep driving, only stopping for gas. Had to drive at one period. It was 18 and a half hours or so. I lost track of time. I feel like I slept into another dimension. There was nothing but snow at one point. I was on the leading edge of a fucking snowstorm that wouldn't quit. It just kept following me, putting a nice little blanket of winter wonderland in my path. And I just didn't know when the fuck it was going to stop. There were plenty of times where I was like, I should stop and get this hotel right there, but then will I get stuck in the middle of fucking wherever? There's a whole bunch of wherever in the United States that you don't want to get stuck at because you may never leave. People will be missing you, and they won't know where to find you because you're in whatever town, USA. So I had to keep going. I just had to keep my my truck just pushing. With those, I had to keep those ponies going, and then we made it through. But 18 hours later, I got to sleep at a truck stop in my truck for about 3 hours, and then continued on my way. It was probably the most miserable fucking road trip I've ever been on. One, I had COVID, and two, I was not getting stuck in some goddamn snowstorm, and so I had to push. And it was basically let's take out those 3 hours of sleep, which don't count for jack and shit. Me with COVID, I drove from Boise back to Arkansas with the exception of 3 hours of sleep. It fucking sucked. That's well over 24 hours of straight driving with a little break here and there to get some gas. I was, if I could tell you I was exhausted, that would be beyond the truth. Beyond the truth is more truth than truth, which is absolutely fucking amazing. Let me get a little sip of this. I got to stay hydrated for you. Maybe you've heard me in the past where on this podcast I'm not so hydrated. Maybe I had a few cold Coors Light, a little too many for fucking 200 days straight. And I was like, So I got to stay hydrated. Don't take that from me. The world will take so much from you. Don't take my hydration. All right? I got a little bit of juice in there. No booze in there. I'm clean. All right? I have been on this kick of no alcohol since I left Washington. I feel amazing. Some people ask me like, "Hey, do you feel like you're going overboard?" So, to some respect, I'll admit yes, but I will say that one real reason I was driving. I'm not an alcoholic that drives and drinks across the United States. Are you fucking kidding me? If I'm in like a hotel, maybe I'll have one or two, but I didn't even do that. I stopped at one fucking hotel in Boise, and from Boise I just drove. But aside from that, I had COVID. I didn't feel like it would be a good idea to necessarily drink while I had it. Give myself a good shot at surviving it, Anyway, I'm not going to talk about what it was like. I mean, you all had it. Who gives a shit? But what I will say is that when I got back, I was extremely exhausted, as you could imagine. And I slept for eternity, and here we are. I just woke up, ready to podcast after about fucking 3 weeks of being in my eternal slumber. In that period of time, you may be wondering, well, what have you been doing with yourself, Mike? What have you been doing to keep yourself occupied? I haven't been working. I've just been, doing some administrative stuff, working on the format for the podcast, trying to give some of the patrons and some of the listeners and some of you guys that are just finding out about us a new podcast experience with the Violent Professional Podcast. Good Lord, we know we need it. So anyway, I was like, let me look back at what the people like. Give the people what they want. You guys and girls seem to like the get out of here, Zia. You guys and girls seem to like the macabre, dark, and mysterious. The creepy, the crawly, to the window, to the wally. You like that kind of stuff. So I decided this next year I'm going to try to bring my sense of humor into some of this really gruesome, dark stuff that I'm interested in. I like abandoned buildings, although I don't go in them by myself because that is a death sentence. Ghosts, they don't fuck around, so to speak. So I will research some stories. Today I put in, last night I wrote the format based on a previous format, the Space Monkey series. I believe I owe you a Space Monkey 3, but that's not today. This is a different story. I took the format of Space Monkey, and now I'm going to apply it to future episodes. We'll see how it goes. You got to have a little bit of structure. In the beginning of this fucking shit show, really no structure that to be seen or heard of. But I'm going to try to do better this year. I think you guys deserve it. You've been great to me. You've been listening to episodes, re-listening to episodes, just waiting. The listenership is doing okay. And no, it's doing great. I appreciate every single listener. I also haven't been putting out any episodes, as you probably know, but I'm going to do better for you guys and girls. Guys and girls. I'm just going to keep saying that. I'm going to try to do better for you guys. And it starts today. So you might be asking yourself, Mike, what the fuck you been doing, dude? You just been sitting on your tuchus? You been resting on your laurels? You been getting all fat and sassy? All those things are true, but one of the thing in particular, I decided it would be a great idea to, put some online school on my plate. You may have seen in some of my content, I've been talking about I'm going to become a fucking science. I'm getting my science degree. Well, that's partially true. I'm taking chemistry, English, and motherfucking calculus because apparently they think I'm smart or some shit. When I went, there's a community college near my house in Washington, and I fucking signed up because I am a veteran and you get the GI Bill and they pay you. I was like, that'd be nice to get a little fucking kickback from my time in service. Plus, I'll go to school and learn some, So I went in there with no focus. I have some schooling previously. I was going for information systems technology, but I was like, I ain't no nerd. All right, I know nothing about information systems or technology. So I just went in there and I was like, hey, I want to take full-time classes. And I use some of my benefits from my time of service. That's great. And they'll give me a little kickback. It help with some of my bills, And so I'll try my best. And I'll make my mama proud. I'll go to school and I'll be not the first graduate of my family, but I'll graduate something. Maybe I won't. Especially after taking these fucking classes. I don't want to graduate shit. I don't even want to continue. I want to fucking quit right now. So anyway, I turned in my transcripts from previous schooling that I've had from previous college. You may not know it, but I'm a fucking intellectual, all right? But I turned in my transcripts and they gave me fucking calculus. They gave me fucking chemistry and they gave me goddamn English. I don't want to do any of those things. I want to be the next Neil deGrasse Tyson, but the white version. Now, he might be both. I don't know. I want to be a fucking astrophysicist, I think. I don't really, I much prefer the title, not so much the work to get there. So I probably should have printed something off the internet. This is a PowerPoint certificate. But anyway. So they put me in these classes and I was like, this is a mistake. I went to the fucking advisor. I was like, hey, I think you guys made a fucking strategic error with this. And like, oh, why is that? And I say, because I'm a dummy. I need to take like arithmetic. Like, I need to take math, which doesn't involve a calculator and some fucking graphic and all this other shit that people quit school over. And as far as chemistry, what we talking about here? They're like, oh, you're on fucking level whatever. So, anyway, it's not 101, I'll tell you that much. Anyway, I get into my schooling, and I'm just not having a good time. First week, great. It's syllabus quizzes. I can fucking learn stuff. I can be like, this is, we're talking about what we're going to be doing. And I fucking aced it, man. I fucking took the first quizzes, fucking aced them. But week 2 came. And you want to know the fucking weirdest thing? It ain't the math and it ain't the chemistry that's getting me. It's the fucking English, oddly enough. You know why my grade is suffering? I don't even think I'm passing right now. It's because I hate participating in forums with these fucking 16-year-old running start students that are smart as fuck. I asked them questions in the forum, and I'm like, hey, how do you do this math problem? And they tell me, and I'm like, I still don't understand you, smarty pants. I'm struggling. It's like I didn't go in with good intentions, right? I went in and be like, I'll take the benefit, and then maybe I'll pass, I didn't go in with good intentions, and this is what I get. I get a struggle. It's a rough. Anyway, that's been my past few weeks. I hope you enjoyed my tale of woe. But it's nothing compared to what we're going to get into right now. And I have prepared for this episode. It's dark. It's dark and dingy, and it is bloody. I'll tell you that much. So today, and if I could pull up my notes because I need them. God knows I need them. Hey, while we wait for me to pull this up, if you could, Spotify has a new rating system. If you can go on there, tap the 3. You're listening to this on Spotify? There's 3 buttons next to my fucking artwork with the little death cheetah, and it says The Violent Professional. If you can go on Spotify and hit the 3 buttons below that, and then it says rate. If you could give us a 5-star rating, that'd be huge. It'd light up my life. Truly, because when you're a podcast, you need all the help you can get, to get the word out that people want to listen. I know some of you want to listen, so if you like the episodes, if you like the podcast, then could you tell people about us? Like, share the podcast, the Instagram, what have you, the website, but give us a rating on Spotify. That will help immensely. So tonight, I'm going to talk about the Villisca axe murders. This is something that is a part of lost American history that was preceded major serial killers, modern serial killers of the day. And I'm not talking about like the ones that are like very recent. I'm talking about like the 80s and 90s and 70s, right? Dahmer. We're talking the Zodiac Killer. We're talking about, the Manson family. Stuff like that. This is before this, way before all that. I'm going to try, the name of the town is going to escape me a few times, I'm sure of it, but I'm going to try to do it right, okay? The Villisca axe murders occurred between the evening of June 9th, 1912, and the early morning of June 10th, 1912. In the town of Villisca, Iowa. Yeah, some of you have never heard of this, so I'm going to fill you in, all right? I have never heard about this until I started going like, what am I going to talk about this week? What am I going to talk about? I'm going to talk about some fucked up shit? Yeah, I'll talk about this. In the Villisca axe murders, 6 members of the family known as Moore and 2 guests were beat to death, slashed, hacked, and smashed somewhere in the morning of June 9th and June 10th after they all went to sleep. Of the 8 victims, 6 of them were children, unfortunately. Again, this happened a while ago, so this is before cell phones, modern shit. This is as American as you can get when it comes to mass murders, and jumping ahead, you can go visit this place. It's in Iowa. It's actually like a tour. It's pretty fucked up. The building's still there. You can go in all the rooms, but getting into it. So during the nighttime, 8 people were murdered in a really fucking weird way, and this is unsolved. It still to this day is unsolved. They don't know who it is. They have a few suspects, but nobody's been convicted of this. A few people went to trial. There's about 4 people that were suspects, and one of them was their best shot, but then the jury was hung. They couldn't figure it out after even confessions from, and I'll only talk about the one that I feel is the one out of all of them. I'll talk about the one that I feel is the most probable. So it's either a person or persons, but highly likely that it's one person. Entered their house in Iowa, and in the nighttime, walked through and one by one systematically executed everybody in the house. There were 2 adults, 6 kids, and of the 6 kids, they were between the ages of 5 and 12. And over 10 years of investigation, repeated grand jury hearings, and 4 suspects, they could never convict anybody because there was not enough evidence, and I'll tell you why. The evidence got all fucked up after the family was discovered. So there's the father, Josiah Moore, and his wife Sarah took their 4 children, Herman, Catherine, Boyd, and Paul, to a Children's Day service at their Presbyterian church. With them were Lena and Ina Stillinger, who were neighborhood kids and friends with them, and they were at the service with the family. And at the conclusion of the ceremony, their parents were away, and the kids wanted to sleep over with their friends. So they went back to their house. Oh, well, let me go back. Talking about the service, it was the end of year Sunday school program. The mother was the co-director, and all the kids performed little speeches and recitations along with other Sunday school members. At the end of the service, there was a little hangout session with all the kids. And if you've ever been to church, depending on what church you go to, sometimes like the one I went through was a Protestant or Christian or Catholic. My family and my extended relatives, we all had different churches we all went to, so it was always kind of similar but a little bit different, especially with the Catholic stuff. If you've ever been to that, it's a little bit different. So usually at the end of Sunday school or whatever, which is what I enjoyed as a kid, is like the coffee cake and the donuts and stuff that they had at the church. If you had that was something I enjoyed. That was literally the only thing that I enjoyed about it. So now I just get cake on Saturdays. So the whole thing ended at 9:30 p.m. on June 9th of 1912. It's a long time ago. It's over 100 years ago. And so everybody left the congregation, the end of year celebration. And all the family and the two other guests, they walked with them back to the Moore house, and then they had some cookies and milk, having some fun family shit. And parents tucked everybody in. Everybody went to sleep, and then the parents went to sleep. And so somewhere after everybody went to sleep, they would never wake up again. So the next day comes, and the people are outside. Let me find this lady's name. So the next, this lady named Mary Peckham, she was a neighbor of the Moores. And it was about 7:30 a.m. when Mary realized that nobody was outside. See, back then, kids and family members were usually up. They were taking care of their fucking livestock or their chickens, who the Moores had chickens. They were doing laundry. And there was just, you could tell there was commotion. People were making breakfast, all that stuff. It's a different time. You would wake up early. Everybody was up and everybody was doing their thing. Kids were running around. And so she noticed by 7:30 that none of the family was up. There was no sound coming from the Moore house. And so she went to go see what was going on, see if everything was all right. And she knocked on the door. Nobody answered. It was dead quiet. And she tried to open the door, the front door to the house. I'll explain how the house is laid out too. And nothing. The doors are locked. She can't get in. And so she called her, who did she call? She called her brother, or Joe's brother Ross, who had a key to the house, and he came over, and he arrived about 8. And he had an extra key, and so he went and opened the door, unlocked the door, went inside, and quickly realized that everybody in the house was dead. So he went in, saw 2 people dead, and he backed out, and they called the sheriff or the constable. What he saw was 2 figures covered in sheets in the back bedroom, which would be the downstairs. As you walk into the kitchen, you go through what is called the parlor or the living room, take a right. There's a bedroom right there, and kids were covered up with their bloody rags. So he stepped back. He got out of the house because he was like, "Oh shit, I don't know what the fuck's happening." And he backed up, called the police. The police showed up, and but as the cops got there and started looking at stuff, at some point along the way, and I'm not certain when, they went into town, I think to the drugstore for some reason, and then the officer mentioned it, and everybody in town heard. So in between the time that the police were there and the coroner were there, everybody in the town, about 2,000 people, they all ran to the house and they just mobbed the house and they went in to go see, because you got to understand, these small towns, like 2,000 people, everybody knew each other, and so that everybody heard that the Moore family had been murdered, so they all just ran the house, and they were going one by one but to each room, and police showed up again, pushed everybody out so the coroner could come in, and they were just trampling all over the crime scene. Now, to go back and talk about what happened, because I feel like I did this out of order, but here we go. I'm trying to do something new. Essentially what happened was, somewhere in the dark of night, and at the end of this, you're probably going to lock your fucking doors. You should lock your doors anyway. You should double check your doors every single fucking night. It's kind of silly to leave your doors open in case this shit happens around you. But what I'm saying is, first check your doors right now. Go do it. Pause this and then go check it. But what happened was, I'll use my little map. So somewhere along the line, someone or two or more than one person entered the house, but likely it's one person. They were in the house, and as you walk in the house from the downstairs, which the idea which they think happened is that Josiah Moore's axe was in the backyard, and as this person, whoever it was, came through the back near the chicken coops. Chicken coops are a little bit further out from the back porch, kind of. He grabbed Josiah's axe out of like the shed or the fucking near the chicken coop and walked in the house, which was unlocked. Back in the day, this stuff wasn't really happening, so there was no real locking of the doors. They had latches. Nobody was really concerned about this kind of stuff. And so you see what happens, right? This person enters the house, and what they initially thought, and I'll tell you what's more than likely to have happened after I looked at a bunch of videos and read a bunch of stuff, entered through the house and went right up the stairs. So right there to the parents' room, which was at the top of the stairs. Straight as you come up the stairs in the house, you enter the kitchen, and there's multiple doorways. Straight ahead is the living room, and to the right on that side is a blue room, which is where the two guest children were sleeping. Didn't go there, walked right past them. To the right of that door in the kitchen is a set of stairs that go like make a S shape. So they go to the right, go up, or go to the right, go back, and then up, and across at the top of the stair landing is the bed of the parents. To the left of that is a bedroom where 3 children were sleeping. But right at the top of the stairs, Josiah and his wife were sitting there. The person that killed them, everybody in the house, proceeded to smash the father with the back end of the blade of the axe, and then use the blade and chop him up in the head. So in the actual house behind where he would be standing, the flat edge of the axe is, you can see it smashed in the wall. There's a big mark. And so the idea is that what happened was, he had the axe as he's coming down and chopping the shit out of Josiah. He smashed the wall. And it's crazy because it's still in the wall, this big bash section, which looks exactly like the back of if you ever seen an axe, it's flat, it's like long, and it looks exactly like that. Like he was going back and then smash. So he chops him up, and then he smashes his wife with the axe. So he flipped the axe around and smashed her in the head with the back, in the blunt edge of the axe. The only person he used to cut up with the blade edge was Josiah. So right there is kind of what the investigators think is that this person that was in the house doing this knew them or knew Josiah and had some beef with him or something else. I'll give you an idea about what I think after researching this, of what I think the motivation was. So he goes from there after he kills the parents. He walks behind. The children are still sleeping, right? And he one by one whacks them with the back end, and it's immediately to the head and kills them instantly. There's only one of them that was awake when this happened, supposedly. And he's going around and smashing them, and then he proceeds to go back to the parents' room and takes more swings at Josiah. So essentially everybody was just once or twice. But the mother was a whole bunch. I think it was 20 times. And then Josiah was like way more than that, to a point of disfigurement. So you couldn't even tell who he was. From the top of his jaw up was flattened and hacked and just disfigured into an unbelievably gruesome, muddy, messed up way. All right. So from there he goes downstairs and hears there's children in the other room, and he takes them out too. Now, one of them, some of this stuff I don't want to talk about because it's pretty fucking twisted, and there has to do with sexual assault, whatever. But, and it doesn't really matter. That's just kind of like par for the course with this kind of thing. So supposedly he did something really bad to one or multiple of the kids. But before that, he hit one of the kids with the back end of the axe again, and then went to the other kid. And in the investigation, when the coroner was there, there's blade cut marks on the forearms of one of them, and so it shows that there was somebody that was defending themselves in the house. Truly unfortunate story. It's pretty fucked up. Not pretty fucked up. It's really fucked up. It's like when I was doing this, I was like, well, I'm going to start doing these weird stories that are kind of messed up or dark or whatever. But just if you've ever like sat there and listened to this kind of stuff, like it's pretty hard to listen to some of the stuff. And even in back in the day when that was happening, like back in the day, that was like over 100 years ago, it's still hard to listen to because you could imagine, especially like if you get balls deep in these stories, you put yourself in it and you're just like reading, researching, and so now you have to understand what was happening during that and put yourself in that. So then also the layout of the house kind of comes into play with this. So whoever this person was, the initial thought is they came in through the backyard, but then there's another theory on this that they were most likely in the attic the whole time when the parents were out at their end of year religious celebration they were having with their family. It's like a big family event, right? So as you go into the house from the back where they initially thought, you walk into the kitchen. And so you walk into the kitchen across their little deck, and I think that might be added on since they made it like a museum. You walk into the kitchen, and as you look forward, there's all kitchen shit from old-timey kitchen shit, but right across on the right corner is the entryway to the parlor. Now in the parlor, there's an old wood-burning stove, and before that, to the right, there's a room where the two guests were staying. Now, and there's one bed, and they were both in it. Now, back out there, go to the kitchen again. There's a pantry to the right, and then the stairway that goes up makes that kind of S turn and then up, which is at the top of the flight of stairs, would be the bed straight across, which was the end of the bed was right here. And then to the left was where that axe mark was in like kind of like the rooms were like, because they were like old houses and they were smaller, they had the apex of the roof. You could see the what's it called? The slope of the roof through the walls. So at the head of the bed there was that slope, and then to the left there was a wall with the dresser, and you can see the mark in the wall clearly is where the axe hit as he was bringing it down on Josiah. Now, where the killer would be to the right would be an attic crawl space. And so when they did their investigation, when they came in, there was also in the attic space, there was a chair, and there were two completely smoked cigarettes that were on the ground. So what the other theory is that the guy was in the house the whole time. He's in the attic. And when the doorway to the attic it doesn't make any sound, at least now. So it would make sense that the person would be sitting there, he would walk up, and he'd already be in the house, especially with the fact that the doors don't lock. They didn't have any locked doors back then. So soundless door, comes in, has the axe already that he picked up from the backyard, who the axe was Josiah's, and he went over and started one by one taking everybody out. So as the dude walked out of the attic, to the left is the kids' room, to the front is the father and mother, and then downstairs through the kitchen, through the living room, to the right would be the last room where he took the rest of them out. Multiple times went back upstairs to take care of more care of the father and the mother, and then continue on his way wherever the fuck he went. So all the victims were found in their beds. They were covered with bedcloth, which I think is probably their sheets. The upstairs was covered with plaster in one of the beds because when he struck the roof, there's plaster all over the floor. And then like the mirrors and the windows were all covered. Now there's some videos out there where they talk about why were the mirrors covered? Why did he cover them up with sheets and all that stuff? And they say like, oh, they get these kind of people get superstitious about that kind of stuff. And while that is partially true, it mostly goes into a religious background. And this is where I'm getting into who I think did it. So there are multiple suspects in this whole thing. They were all mentally deranged. One was I believe he was the governor or a senator from Iowa who he had like conflict with Josiah. But more than likely it was someone that knew the family and knew the layout of the house is what I feel. So the mirrors were all covered up, and it's not like necessarily a superstitious thing. It's more of a religious thing that happens. And you see this like even in Abraham Lincoln's funeral when they were doing the wake and all that stuff, they cover up mirrors, and it's a religious it's kind of like a ritual in religions across the entire world. They cover up mirrors as a sign of respect. There's some thought that like the soul will get trapped in the mirror, or the soul will see its body and get freaked out, stuff like that. So that's really why they do it. And I guess you could say that's superstition, but a lot of the people that talk about it, they think about like, well, they don't want to look at themselves when they know they're doing something bad. And that's not necessarily it. It's mostly a religious thing. And so this leads me to believe this was like a religious type. Now, a lot of people were religious back then, but the person I think did it, based on all of the stuff I read, was and he was not convicted, although he did confess a few times. I'm gonna shut my sound off. It's the ghosts trying to tell me to shut the fuck up. So this is a horrific crime scene. Let me go back before I start talking about who I think did it and why. And I wrote down that stuff so I could just talk about it. So as the coroner gets there to do the investigation, like the crime scene's completely fucked up. It's completely fucked up. Everything's in disarray because of, like I said, all those people are just running through the fucking house. Everybody's running through the house, looking at the bodies. Like, it's a fucking show. You would never see that shit like nowadays. People would be like, stay away from there. Let the cops do their job. But no, they went through and just dismantled the whole fucking crime scene. Totally unheard of again. So when they go through there, they see a bunch of things that were not affected. Obviously, there's blood everywhere. But one of the things was a slab of bacon, which is, if you don't know what a slab of bacon, I'm here to inform you. It's just uncut bacon. So he had 4-pound slab of bacon. There's theories that the dude was fucking it. Like he wrapped it in a cloth and was fucking it. One of the things I read, he was using it as a pretend vagina. But who knows? He might have meant to take it on his way out, left it there. He did clean the axe, left it there, and then moseyed out of there. So they saw a bowl filled with water and blood, bacon, and then the axe was clean and he left it. They didn't have fingerprint technology back then, so that would have helped a lot, obviously. And so all the mirrors, all the windows were covered up. It was late as fuck. Like, there's only lanterns back then, so it was way easier to get away with this kind of shit back then. So Now at 7:30 was when what's her fucking face? 7:30 was when they were discovered that, or 8 o'clock was when they were discovered that this family was murdered. But before that, at about 5:30, and this will be really all you need to know, but they say that this dude was not convicted and he died. Like, whoever was involved is dead at this point. So at around 5:30 in the morning following the murders, a man by the name of George Jacklin Kelly, he was a reverend that came from England years prior to this, who had a mental disorders and would like look in windows of young women, stuff like that. So he arrived in town in Villisca for the first time the Sunday morning of the murders and attended the Sunday school performance by the Stillinger girls before departing early Monday. And then returned 2 weeks later and, posing as a detective, joined a tour of the murder house with a group of investigators. Right there, that's pretty much damning evidence, right? But it could just be interested in it. Authorities first became interested in Reverend Kelly a few weeks after the murders. See, this is the problem. Like, they didn't have any. They're out of the 4 people. They didn't have any. They didn't have any suspects, and some for years. Like, one of them was 2 years after, attached to the senator or the governor, and he had been convicted of, or not convicted. No, he wasn't convicted, but he was suspected of murdering his family with an axe in the same manner. So, like, a lot of the people they suspected were very similar. Like, they were convicted killers that had axe murders, and they were released from prison or whatever was going on. And they just suspected them because they were axe murderers. So, which was a pretty common thing back then. That was like the motherfucking choice of murder weapon back then. There's that show with Mike Myers, or that movie Mike Myers, So I Married an Axe Murderer. It was like a comedy, pretty good back in the 80s or 90s, whatever the fuck it was, probably 90s. So the morning of the murder, it was noted when they actually made the reverend, or they said that, oh, now you're a suspect to the reverend. It's noted the Monday, the morning after, he was talking about it to people on the train, on an early morning train, before anybody knew they were murdered. He was saying there's eight murdered souls back in Villisca, and talked about the kids and stuff like that. So, right there, like, that's enough, right? And on August 31st, this had to be, when was this? August 31st. So by August 31st at 7 a.m., Kelly signed a confession to the murder, saying God had whispered to him to suffer the children to come unto me. Kelly recanted his confession at trial. And his case went to the jury on September 26th. Jury was deadlocked, and no one else was ever been tried for the murders, and the crime remains one of the most horrific unsolved mass murders in American history. So that's something you may not have known. If you want to go research it, it's pretty interesting. This is my first crack at doing this kind of stuff. I'm not really great at it. I'll admit, this wasn't one of my better cracks at fucking this kind of stuff. But I tried. There's a lot more to this story. But it's one that I think is interesting. This is the one of the first mass murders that was never solved. My gut tells me that after research and learning about this, it's Kelly. He was a weirdo. He like looked at, like I said, he looked in people's windows, went around, fucking had a screw loose, and but he was a preacher at a Methodist church across North Dakota, Minnesota, Kansas, and Iowa. He was assigned visiting minister to several small communities north of Villisca, where he developed a reputation for odd behavior. He also had been convicted of sending obscene materials through the mail and had been spent time in a mental institution. So, there you go. I think it was the Reverend. There's other people that were associated with it, but like the rest of them is just coincidental, axe murders, whatever. So anyway, thank you for checking out this episode. I truly appreciate it. I know it's a short one, and I know you usually expect a full hour, but here we are at 45 minutes, and it's okay. We'll be all right. We'll be fine. We'll do more of these. I just wanted to dip my toe into the creepy shit yet again. We've done some before. I think let me know what you'd like me to cover. And this could be internet rabbit holes. Those kind of those are wacky though. Like this, honestly, this shit's easier to do than do fucking internet rabbit holes. That gets fucking weird. If you saw the LFHOQ, however the fuck you say, LHOHQ stuff, really popular episode that me and Mark did. That is a challenge because now you're getting into I'm gonna fucking look at this, but I may be brainwashed by the end of it, and I might start a cult or sacrifice myself or other people. I may become this shit. I may go fucking axe murder some people. Those are really challenging to do, and it takes a long time to be to try to go down those holes, those rabbit holes. Try to walk those roads and not get lost and see some fucked up shit. Those are challenging, but I'll do them if you want me to. Don't threaten me with a good time. I'll try it. But I'm gonna do more of these. I know you guys like them, and so I'm a man of the people. I'll give you what you want. If you do support this podcast, again, please go subscribe on any of this stuff. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the bell notifications wherever you may be, and give us a rating on all of our platforms out there, especially Spotify. Especially right now. Gosh knows we can use it. We use those up ratings, and we can use a 5-star rating. So if you're not a dick and you don't just come on here to fuck with me and put a 1-star, please give me a 5-star rating. It would be very appreciated. And with that, kids, we'll see you next time on the next episode of the Non-Professional Podcast. See ya.